budget work session on Monday, November 16, 2020 at 3 o'clock. Let's start with the invocation. I'll ask Commissioner Mendenhall to lead us, please.
Thank you. We're glad to please stand. Oh, gracious Heavenly Father, what a beautiful day you've given us. Lord, we know you're the creator of all things. Give you thanks for each and everything. Father, as we come to you this day, we ask that you be upon each member here, that you will give us guidance and wisdom as we do our decision making. Now, Father, we ask for thy blessings upon our nation. And now, Father, as always, we give you thanks for everything that is accomplished. All of these things we ask in thy precious name. Amen.
Please continue standing for our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We move to approval for the agenda. Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Move on to our information agenda. Item 8 is sales tax and financial report. Julia?
I have laid your sales tax, updated sales tax report through September. In general fund, we are 5.29% or $94,620.39 over last year in September, which is 29.13% of the collected budget. September is down some, and I was just going to mention that September and October, the refund checks, the cities, counties, nonprofit and school system to refund their sales tax is out of that. If you look at the total, that includes all the funds that this goes in, we're 5.48% over last year, 134,417.14. We're 30.52% of the collecting of all the funds budgets. That's on the second page, if you want to see that. Any questions on that?
So Julia, are we stabilized as far as in comparison to last year? Are we ahead at this point, or where do we stand as far as sales tax? What you just gave us, 5.2994,000.
Yeah.
About average.
Over last year.
That is over
Collections.
last. Okay.
Last year's collection, not the budget, the collections.
Collections. Thank you. Thank you.
But then you can't tell that COVID's done anything then.
No.
The problem with our data is so, just the first quarter basically.
And see, that's really June sales tax in September, because they keep us 2 months behind.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like, and at the end of last year, the sales tax was fine with what we had collected as of June 30th.
So with that, you wouldn't even know we had COVID.
No, not really.
So the question now is,
What's going to happen now?
if it's going to hit us, when it's going to hit us.
One problem we want to see, we don't know what's going to happen if our state ends up shutting down. How much is that going to affect us?
Exactly.
Of course, I hear people are starting to hoard stuff from the stores and stuff, buying up a lot of stuff.
There he is.
About budget time, we should have some idea.
Yeah. My understanding, the restaurants, even with the takeout, they were doing, I think, good. I don't know what this second round do to us.
All right, so I'll let you know we are in session. Going over the sales tax and financial report right now.
Okay.
You want me to go back over it for him?
Go ahead and let him know what you told us.
I laid it, the report's laying at your, laid it at your location. General fund, the collections over last year is up 94,620.39, which is 5.29%. We're 29.13% collected on budget, and that's 25% through September. And the overall for all sales tax for all the funds, it's 134,417.14, which is 5.48% up from last year. And September and October is when the refund checks to the counties, cities, nonprofits, and school system to get back their sales tax that for the fiscal year June 30th will be coming out. So that could have counted for a reduction in September. I know we just got ours in October.
What I think I'm hearing then, Julia, is that we prepared for COVID to really hit us hard, or at least affect us pretty
Yeah.
heavily. However, it has not done that up to this point.
No.
We're in good shape, right?
Yeah.
We
And
don't know where we're headed in the year 2021, but as of now, we're.
yeah. Yes, sir.
Financial headed in the same direction.
Is there any more questions on the sales tax?
On the, let's see, I guess it's the difference in the total of what we projected to what the actual figure is now. Is that 6.03? Am I reading that right?
6,470,000 is what we've budgeted for sales tax. And we've collected 29.13%, which through September would be 25%. So we're up from what we budgeted a little bit.
So the total is 25 point.
You're talking about just general
I'm
fund?
talking about,
No, I'm talking about the, monies that we put in, well, it's in savings.
Fund balance.
Fund balance.
Talking about fund balance, he's talking about fund balance.
Oh, you're talking about fund balance,
yeah,
What was you talking about?
sales tax.
Okay, we're on two different things then. We're on two
If
different.
you want to talk about fund balance, I can talk.
Just stay with your format. Don't worry about me.
You want me to do the financials next, or you want me to do talk about fund balance?
And the financial.
Huh?
Financial.
Okay, also a location, the financial report is for all the funds that we have, but the top one is general fund. We have 17,073,969 in cash at this time. This collection on revenues is 29, total collections is 29.17% collections of the budget amount. And expenditures 31.13%, which October would be 33.33%. So we're a little bit under on revenues, but our expenditures are not way over or under the percentage also. But now sales tax, you gotta remember, they keep us behind 2 months. So when you're looking at October, you really don't have a July and August sales tax. Well, July, yeah, because September doesn't come in till I don't get it till tomorrow.
Aren't the restaurants all closed by then? They all closed, have to shut down.
March.
Yeah.
March,
Yeah,
I don't understand why the sales tax
it'll
would
be down a little bit more than it is.
so everybody was buying toilet paper.
This is a different fiscal year.
If they could find it.
I didn't bring last year's sales tax to see what it did toward the end.
They just shifted their purchasing to something else and you still.
From my understanding, they've had a quite booming business with the takeouts.
Takeouts and certain stores did very well, like Home Depot and Lowe's and a few others did very well.
Last year's sales tax, we got 7,311,961 in sales tax actual. We had budgeted 6,805,000, so it still came in like a little bit over the budget.
Julia, do you know, in Stokes County, what percent Walmart?
I have no way of telling that.
'Cause they kept doing well,
Yeah.
they didn't miss a lick.
There's no way I can get that information. I've asked, and they don't have it broke down.
Okay, thanks.
Is there any specific questions you have on the financial report?
Could
Wish
you,
it told us more, but it doesn't.
could you tell me the main thing I missed by being late, and I apologize. I had a
You want me to
major
go back and, we was just going over the sales, this is your financial report,
Okay.
and I was just going over how much we have in cash, and that we're 29.17 collection over the revenues per the budget. And expenditures are 31.13% expense, and it's 33.33% of the budget in October. So we're down on revenues, but we're also down on expenditures. So, the other thing was the sales tax. I put that located. We're 5.29 over last year.
Really?
We're 29.13% collected, which is through September, so that'd be 25% of your fiscal year
Right.
on general fund, just to catch you up on what.
Sounds like we're doing pretty well.
Fund balance, the audit is, I've had a time with the audit, with some stuff they've had me change. Your fund balance percentage is 19.29. I was appropriating for the self-insured, what we were spending more than what we were being billed for in a payables account, and they told me I couldn't do that needed to be shown as an expenditure, and that was over 3 years, it's 1.4, and they had me put it in the budget, so that took your fund balance down some too.
What did you say it was?
The,
Fund balance?
19.29.
19.29. Which is 7,552,411 undesignated, unassigned.
You repeat that, please. 7 what?
552,411.
7,552,411 unassigned.
Thank you.
And that's the 19.29%.
That's not restricted either.
Not the 7,952,000, no.
952 or 552?
7,552,411. I was afraid I said that wrong, sorry.
Being 19%, that is restricted.
Excuse me.
Unrestricted.
The 19%. Everything, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, what was the question?
I was just saying 19.29% is restricted.
It's not
From
restricted.
a standpoint of the county, it should be.
It's unassigned.
He's saying because it's under.
Oh, okay, I understand now, yes, sir. It's under the 20%, yes.
Did he hear you explain why it's under, because of the insurance? Did he?
Yeah,
When we did the budget, we were saying that we would go down as far as 25%, but
yeah, but we used $3 million some dollars, and $1.4 million of that was due to that. They made me, the auditors required me to change that health self-insurance amount over what we had billed out and paid out of as an expenditure, and that was 1.4. We wouldn't have used quite as much fund balance if I hadn't had to do that, but they told me I was accounting for it incorrectly and I had to change it.
Okay, that's understandable.
No question. Do you, could you frame that a little more, put it into perspective as far as where we expected to be at this point in time compared to where we actually are with our fund balance?
Well, see, you know, at budget time, I'm estimating because I don't know
Right.
what expenditures might come in.
But you're a good estimator.
Well, I try to be. Sometimes I don't hit it just right, but the auditor, I was accounting for that 1.4 in a payables account, and they told me I couldn't do that. I had to show it as an expenditure. But that was for 3 years of self-insured health insurance.
Right.
The cost of what we were billed for compared to what we was taking out of the checks. And so they told me I had to show that as an expenditure. So that was 1.4 I wasn't expecting to come out.
And that's, 1.4 is about, 3 percentage points
Yeah.
of the fund balance, a little over actually, 3 percentage points of our fund balance.
Yeah. So that was something I wasn't expecting.
We had
Wait 3 years to tell you.
No, trust me, me and them had a deep discussion. I said, why hadn't you already told me this last year?
Exactly.
I could have fixed the problem, but, you know,
We'll ask them that when they come
Pretty solid too.
we'll see, we've just gone out for contract with them, so I'm locked in for, I think, another year, so. But yeah, I wasn't too happy with that either, and we had a deep discussion about it. Very deep discussion about it.
That's a little bit of a surprise, because these folks historically have done a good job for us. They've been on their game.
I don't know if the Gatsby's changing stuff. They're changing stuff constantly on us. And I don't know if they've changed stuff of how you have to account for it. And, I mean, I try to keep as up on all that as I can, but, you know, she just all of a sudden, well, you're not supposed to be doing it. I said, well, why didn't you tell me that last year so I could have fixed it before this year? And see, we're going to get wrote up in the audit because I had no budget for it. So,
Man,
yeah, I'm going to get an LGC letter.
oh well.
So, yeah, I've had to give an explanation of why and how we're going to correct it. So, it's not,
And what that does for us, this board, is it takes it down below where we expect it to be.
where y'all have said you would like to be, yes.
And we just had no way of seeing this coming, nor did you.
Right, correct. I didn't see it coming.
Back to peach and pennies. Keep on going.
Is there any more questions on that? The other thing is public utilities. I've laid a one-sheeter at your location with the increase that, you know, Richard had let you know on the public utilities that we were getting. I broke down how much is extra tax dollars we're getting per fund. The county's going to get approximately $261,952. Current expense is the same, 4-cent funds, $33,800, and then the fire funds. Just to let y'all know, the additional monies we'll be getting from that increase.
On the co-fires, for the parentheses, that mean it went down.
Yeah, their value went down, I don't know why. Well, one thing with Wanted Fire, you know, town incorporated Wanted Tree, so. But I don't know if that would have affected them it probably wouldn't have affected them this year, would it? I think that was last year, wasn't it?
It'll probably be the first year you see it show up. I don't know if Wall Street done that, it could be just any number of things.
Any questions going on that?
That's all on the financials, if nobody has any more questions on that.
Just an observation, if I may, please. Here, what I'm hearing is, we're actually doing pretty well. Sales taxes up a little.
Yeah, up a little.
Utilities, we did pretty well there, and that actually was 251 above last year. Utilities.
Yeah.
And the only glitch in the whole thing seems to be with our auditors and how we had to account for the 1.4 million for health. So all in all, it sounds like we're doing pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, y'all don't have a written policy that says, 20%, but you have a understood policy that you would not like to see it go below that.
When did you actually find out that you were having to account for that 1.4 the way you ended up
In
having?
the September, when they was up here doing the true audit stuff that's going through all our stuff.
So we had already been through our budget.
Yeah, and see, I can't go back and do a budget for that. It's how I explained it to as the finding. It was found after I could get a budget amendment or anything approved, so.
Thank you.
More discussion on that, we're gonna move on to our discussion agenda. Item A, salary study.
Do you want to discuss anything before I give Phil Robertson a call? Or would you want me to go ahead and get him on the phone?
I didn't hear the question.
Do you want to discuss this before we got Phil Robinson on the phone, or do you want to go ahead and get him on the phone?
I would like to have some discussion prior to him
Okay.
joining in, please. If you had your hand up before me.
One thing I'd like to do is just, we had talked about not approving this, I think we said until January, so that Wayne and Tanya would have a chance to look at it and understand it, since they're gonna have to help implement it. So I'd like for us to figure out what date we're gonna put it back on the agenda for discussion, which I think maybe sometime in January would be a good time. I've just started to analyze it. I've done a few things on it, but I still got a good bit more to go before I finish researching it and trying to make sure I'm satisfied with it. So I'll make that point. Then I got a couple of questions about it. One of them would be for him.
I have a question for Commissioner Morris, if I may please, and if he will allow it.
Definitely will allow it.
Thank you. With your analysis, what in particular are you looking for? How much of it we can implement when, for example, or the fairness, is it all equitable?
Yeah,
equitable
basically, it's just
consistent?
to compare it to the old system, look at each individual job thing, and then get any feedback that we get from department head, that we give to department heads if they have issues, because they would know the most about what their folks are doing. I like to kind of go through I've got all the materials, I just haven't had time to do it yet. I mean, it takes a while, it took them a year to do it, so it'll take us more time to analyze it.
To process it. I'm with you,
And then Wayne and them need at least a month with it,
I would think so.
Say, Wayne, you want at least a month to look at it, right?
Oh, yeah. I looked at it on that day when there's a whole lot of draft there.
Maybe even longer than a month. You guys have time to look at it. As long as we get it done in time to implement it with the next budget.
Finish for now, or?
I am.
Okay, I have a question as well, Mr. Chairman. What was that figure again? If we implemented the whole budget as it's currently being recommended by Mr. Robertson? Do you know?
Excuse me?
I'm sorry, I'm not talking about my allergies.
I'm sorry, I was asking Shannon something, sorry.
How much go up?
How much would it cost the county? How much county funding would it take to implement the study just as it's currently presented?
It's going on how you want to implement it.
And that's based on what specifically?
Well, if you bring everybody, right now, I mean, it's just the way it stands with some adjustments. Departments have let Shannon know that we went through and made, and they got with Phil on, which y'all should have a new.
The one that's in your packet now is updated after we had a 2-hour phone call with Phil the other day, after we went through, every department head sent in their suggestions for positions that didn't quite look right to them, or the grades were off. DSS had quite a few that we had to change and talk to Phil about, and a few others too. And Julia and Jake and Gil and I sat down and went through those and then called Phil. So that one that you have the copy of now reflects all of those changes. So it's the most up-to-date one.
Shannon, does it have, or Julia, does it have an amount on it for the total impact?
Julia can
Does it
give
have
you,
back
she can give you that implementation amount.
To bring employees up to minimum on his scale with fringe, with FICA, Medicare, retirement, $468,471.98.
Now, I got the new one you handed out, and it's still got the 366,190.
I don't think he changed. I think all that he changed was the, he'll have to change his copy of all that and fix it because he didn't refigure all that once we made them. The only changes to that one, I should have said that, sorry, are under the grade scales where they're at. The positions got moved around a little bit. So he should, when we call him, have some up-to-date numbers too that should match what Julia's already figured.
And the figure I'm saying has the FICA, Medicare,
Right.
retirement, 401k in it.
He didn't figure
I
that.
didn't figure the fringe, the
Fringe.
fringe costs.
So what you're saying, if the total cost to bring it up to the.
I got $399,786
He's
now
got
to bring everybody to minimum.
to update that on. He just updated the grades that we told
That was
him.
the October that we
That
made.
includes the fringes?
299?
The fringes is 468,
471.
471, or 472, just round it up.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the minimum.
That's just bringing employees from their salary up to the minimum. That's all that's doing.
Some of them are already there, right? So
Yeah, some of them are there or above,
Yeah.
because they've been here a long time or whatever. Now,
This is almost the minimum thing you could do to implement.
all right,
And then if you want to phase in more stuff, you got to figure that out yourself, right?
I
I
mean,
guess.
I've figured if you base it on position, how long they've been in the position, not how long they've been with the county, but how long they've been in the position. For example, I've been here 42 years, but I've only been in this position 28 years. So see, that's a difference there. I've got that cost. I don't know if y'all want that cost. And then I have figured, what if you give them their years of service? I've got that cost, so I don't know if you go by how many years they got in the position. It's $1,153,275.
Say it again.
$1,153,275.
That's by position.
That includes fringes. Now, that can change because some people will get their longevity whenever y'all, between the times that you do the implementation. So, but I didn't project that because I didn't know how, we was going to do it. This is just estimates right now. I mean,
So what does that number do again? It's with
Fringes for people to do what?
$1,153,275. That's with fringes.
for what? For people who, what?
Years in
Position, how long they've been in the position.
And
Basically, those that wouldn't get anything and bring it up to minimum, this would fix put them on the scale where they should be for the years in their position.
Because the way this is set up, my understanding is minimum to maximum is 60%, which is given a 2% every year for 30 years. When you've been here 30 years, you should be at max. That's the way it's been explained.
Yeah.
Well, one other question I had for him, but maybe you can answer it, is will our longevity system we use now overlay on this? It won't.
No.
You have to have a new one.
Yeah, and Joy, we've written up some
Yeah.
things that sort of go with how he's got this laid out for when we get closer to looking at it, where it's since a
It's
30-year scale.
It's policy, it's procedures of how to hire people, longevity, and all that of how will have to be done with this, the way it's set up. We sit down with Gail and everything, all us, to talk about all that, but we've not given that, now if you want to do compression based on how many years somebody has been working here, years of service, it's 2,268,148.
That is also with fringe benefits.
That includes fringe benefits. Need me to repeat that?
Yeah, do it, say it again.
2,268,148.
That's a compression adjustment,
Yeah,
like he describes in his report.
yeah. And this would be based on how many years you worked here. Now, for example, me, I'd be at the maximum. It's a decision of the board what they want to do about people that's worked over 30 years. Are you going to let them go over the max, or are you going to leave them at the max, and if you get a COLA, that's all they would get? That's something the board will have to decide. It's about 6 of us right now in the
That's
county.
only if you did it with years of service
Yeah,
and not
with the
years
years
in
of service,
position.
not the years in position. Well, yeah, I have, I think, 2 or 3 is years in the position.
Yeah.
Because they've been in that same position since they've been here.
Right.
I've got somebody that's been here 32 years. I know they've been in that position 32 years because that's what they came to work here to do.
Well, with the numbers you just gave us, it appears we don't have a lot of turnover.
That's what, but, this is just estimates right now, to the best I can do. I've not figured in somebody getting their steps, because I didn't know what date you was gonna do the implementation. I was just guessing if you did it. I didn't go and figure out, well, they're gonna get one step between now and this date. I didn't do all that. I can, but I didn't, to do some estimates for y'all.
Is that 1,153,000, is that a compression thing too?
It is, but it would be years in position.
Yeah, that's compression with years in the position. And all of my figures have fringe, the FICA and the Medicare retirement and all the fringe benefits in it. Where his just had salary costs.
I do have a question. One thing that we discussed way back when we started discussing the salary study, which it's been in discussion now almost 2 years, I would say. It's at about 2 years we've been going over this, at least 2.
Since it
And,
was first mentioned.
there's been a couple words that's been thrown out a lot, and I just want to make sure I understand one of the 2. One word that was used was the morale of our employees, and the other word was turnover. And to reduce turnover, because turnover actually costs an increase. There's an increase when you have a high turnover rate. Now, turnover, though, to me, is someone that works for us here in the Stokes County Government Center, and they leave and go to another county. In other words, it's not change of position, it's not retirement, none of that falls under the turnover rate. Turnover is like someone that is, let's just say, someone that works in DSS and they decide to go to Guilford County in the same position or get a position. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's what that's how y'all calculate turnover. Just want to make sure.
That's not the way that the salary study is calculated.
I'm asking how we're calculating it right
You
now.
want to look at the true turnover rate, and what you're talking about is correct. He is looking at everything that has made a change that's in here now. I may have went from tax administrator to county manager. That's a change of turnover rate in his salary study. So you would have to read.
So he considers that
Yes,
turnover?
yes.
When you went from tax administrator to county manager, he's considering that turnover.
That's correct.
To me, that's not turnover.
Now, if you
Because you're still
retire,
working for the Stokes County government center.
but I still moved. And then he's also considering retirements. That either I quit or I got retired. That's part of his turnover rate.
He's considering retirement as turnover?
Anytime anybody left any position, no matter what the reason for it, that was a contributing factor to his turnover rate. Now, what you're talking about is true turnover rate. That's what you really need to look at or think about or talk about.
Is that what I just
Is what you just said.
said?
Yes.
Because,
Why they truly left.
so he would consider where I worked 36 years in the school system and retired,
Part
he
of the
would
turnover.
consider that turnover?
That would be part of the turnover rate.
What do you use a number, if I may, what do you use a number like that for? And what pertinence does that particular number have on
I don't-
salaries?
I don't think it really affected his study as far as the amounts he came. I think it was just when he was trying to give you that percentage that time of what your turnover rate looked like, he was figuring more of a, not what I would call a true turnover rate. He was every position that had changed, as it changed, he was doing that percentage. Like Jake was saying,
That
I don't think it
absolutely
affects
doesn't matter to
amount.
It just tells you some data on what's going on here. But, it does in a sense to where if he gives you a true turnover rate, and then if your turnover rate is costing you X amount of dollars to train individuals for positions, and they leave as soon as they get their training done, it's cost you a lot of money, and they've not paid back any service to the county or the citizens. So there's what he's talking about, turnover rate causing a lot of problems. But we really need to define the turnover rate that it is, and if you really define it and get down, I don't think Stokes County is that bad, to tell you the truth.
No, but that is true, like what you just said is true, because if you have somebody say they start out at DSS and they work there for 3 months and they train them or they even spend some money on classes, and then another job opens up in the county and they apply for it and they receive that job, you got to start over again in that position. So I think that's why he was counting it like a turnover rate kind of, because they are having to constantly retrain people even if they're leaving for other positions.
EMS,
Mm-hmm.
example until you guys fix the problems last year. Now you have no turnover.
The true time and a half.
They're loving it, so
I think we'll understand they're actually beating down the door to work here at DMS.
they want to come to Stokes County.
Very good. And I have a question regarding that, if I may. Historically, there have been certain departments that faced a higher turnover rate than our other departments. Is there anything in the study that we're currently discussing that allows for doing certain things for certain departments with higher turnover rate? EMS used to be a prime example, sheriff's deputies are another one, to help
That's not
offset
that
the effect.
not that I've heard.
But somebody said that we are always going to be, I think as Jake said, we're always going to be a training county for the larger counties. Same thing's true with King. Take King Police Force, for example. Officers come there, stay a little while, and guess where they go? Down to Winston, or somewhere where the pay's higher. Interesting thing is, another thing about compensation is the retirement package for employees is exceptionally good in certain cases. I have two fishing friends, well, I lost one about 4 months ago, one of the best friends I've ever had. But he was a retired Winston-Salem police officer. He didn't make that much as a police officer, but he retired at early 50s and was a millionaire. I think his assets were in excess of, or around $1.5 million. So even though some of the pay scales are pretty low, there's certain advantages into being a county or government employee. And I'm sure, or hopefully, Mr. Robertson has incorporated some of that kind of research into his study as well. How do our employees compare total package, retirement, paid health care, all these things, that to me is part of the total compensation package. And it kind of all works together. Because today, if someone asks me, say, I just want a job, I want to work and be able to work, do my job, do it well, hopefully and go home, I say, you need to work for city, county, or some government organization. Because it's really a good deal. And I think we're benefiting from that. Jake mentioned that Andy mentioned we're not having turnover like we used to. So evidently, more people are realizing government's a good place to work.
Only thing I will say, the sheriff's part, as far as law enforcement, they went to legislature back in the late 90s, and they got a supplemental retirement plan approved by legislature. And when they retire, if they're not 62, we have to pay them a percentage of their salary based on their years of service, the salary when they left, and they get a check from that, and they get a check from the retirement system.
Right, I know my friends that I was referencing told me, we'd be out fishing, talking about things. They made more retired than they did working.
I went down, that was a supplemental retirement. But us other employees don't have that because that was only for law enforcement.
I would always
Unless you put in
say, during the years when they really need that income, they're not making much at all, surprisingly low salary. And then later on in life, when they're pretty well settled in, they get bunches of money.
I think our objective is to just have enough pay for everybody that they don't leave to go to the next county, so we train. Really, you gotta know, ask them why they left in order to analyze that, even with retirement. You could have a guy who's sort of late that's eligible to retire, they retire early because of the pay. You have to ask them that question, otherwise they could have stayed and worked a few more years.
And there's people like Judy's a good example. She's raising her hand, who stayed a pretty good while with the county. I'm glad she has. I've always enjoyed her.
It kind of goes in ebbs and flows, you know. We've had lots of departures, then maybe people kind of hunkered down this year because of COVID. Probably some of them hunkered down because they knew this was coming.
Could be.
There's some hunkered down because they had job security right now. I mean, what they
Yeah,
everywhere else. So.
Exactly, right.
And I'm sure to answer your question, yes, 90% of it's going to be money or opportunity, you know. Which after you talk to some of them after they left here, what do you hear? Well, it's a whole lot easier back in Stokes County and wasn't as busy as it was out here for Forsyth County. So.
And some of them come back.
Right.
Yeah, we've always had that happen too. I think you gotta understand why they're leaving to really get where you're trying to get to.
And we're trying to get better on that, where Gail and Jamie works in HR, because they're doing more, they started doing the exit interviews.
We could have them report the turnover to us in a different format that answers our questions on that.
I don't know about
I think
y'all,
they
but I
still
got a
have-
lot of compliments on the just getting the new vehicles. Some of these employees riding these new vehicles.
Sure.
They were tickled to death with that, kind of listed as a bonus. So I felt safe. I mean, not putting it down what we had before, when we knew what we could do. A lot of them now was very thankful just for the county vehicle they got now. So.
And to compare that to a situation like me and my old Jeep, I started over here with. Some of our DSS workers used to wonder if they would make it back when they went out on a trip. The cars were so old. So, I know I was going on a commissioner conference one time, wanted to drive a county vehicle, and had one of the county employees drive it over to King. And they said, "You mean you're going to wherever it was in this car?" So we've came a long ways.
I do think that we do need, going back to what Commissioner Moore said, we need to establish probably a timeline of when we need to start, when new commissioners come on board, because we want this, for them to have time to, commissioners, to look over this. I don't know if a month is enough time, or if it may take 2 months, but we need to have it ready to go as we start implementing the budget for next year.
Yeah, good point.
Allow us to present to the board a personnel policy handbook that's gonna come to you hopefully in January. This will allow you to see how we're setting up the phase of longevity or the actual cost of living raises or the merit increases and things based on what he's done in his salary study. And if you like that and you want to move forward with that, then you can make some changes then with your personnel policy, which will be implemented at the time that you're ready to move forward with the salary study. You have got your policy of how you'll go through the step process of achieving the ultimate max grade.
And what budget impact it'll have to implement it.
Yeah.
And if I may, I need to know, are you going to phase this in phases, or are you going to do it all at one time? Because I need to find out from the software company if we're going to phase it in phases. How can I do that in the software?
We can't afford not to do it in fact.
I agree.
And that might be something that, Mr. Robertson could help us with as far as his recommendations of
Yeah, that was part of his,
how to
Implementation.
do that.
phase it in.
Really, that's the only way you do it. Is on their hire date, phase it in.
Well, I meant, are you going to phase in the taking them to minimum at a certain date, and then the compression later at budget time, or are you going to, you see what I'm saying? Are you going to phase some of it in early, or are you going to phase it all in at July 1?
Total phase, my understanding, the total phase to this system is when they're hired, they'll start with their experience, X amount of steps.
We're not going to have steps
We'll have steps
anymore.
in this pay scale.
Do what?
We're not going to have steps anymore. It's going to be minimum, midpoint, maximum.
Okay, so you're changing the system.
That's what
Yeah.
that's what he's recommended.
Do we have to do what he said? We don't have to do it.
Up to the board.
What's the best way to do it? I thought the phase-in system we was doing pretty good with it.
I think you need to go ahead and inform a board on your dates that you've got in January, February, March, and just let them start thinking about
We can put it, like, your new commissioner's first meetings, we'll have an organizational meeting on the 7th, but your first meeting where you actually act on business will be December 14th. The ones in January, as far as your regular meetings, would be the 11th and the 25th. So if we want to do it one of those ones and give 2 meetings in December to kind of get in, and before we put the salary study back on there, and put one at the first or the second meeting in January. Hopefully the personnel policy will be on one of those too at the same time, or pretty close to. And bring it back then when all the changes have been made throughout the body of that document that Mr. Robertson's got there, and everything will kind of hopefully be a little more well-rounded then to look at it. And we can put those numbers in there that Julia provided tonight with the compression numbers and all that. So just depending on when you'd like to do it in January.
What's the latest we can do it and meet the budget schedule?
We usually start
We usually get the budget packets out in February, and it takes me a while to go through almost 400 employees and figure out when they get their longevity and what their salary's gonna be, and
Yeah.
I guess I can send out the packets and tell them that will come later. I mean,
Yeah. What would be a timeline for you for latest for what you'd have to do to know, like, say you're gonna implement the to minimum part, if you knew that for sure by February something, would that
Yeah.
enable you to do what you had to do number wise?
yeah, packets may go out a little late, or they may go out without their salary figures.
So we need to deal with it in January, is that what we're saying?
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
so.
That would be the best if we can. So what if, I mean, I could put it on, we could put it on the last meeting in December, and you'd have all the way up through the last meeting of December, first meeting in January, last meeting in January. That gives 3 full meetings to really look at it.
What we do is, way if they got any questions at the end of December, go ahead and start getting some of them answered, and then going into January, a little bit more knowledge in their head there on it. Everybody's fine with that.
Another question before we get Mr. Robertson on the line, and
We may not need him on the line.
hasn't even asked this, but I want to be sure I understand exactly what all that compression entails. Could somebody help me, please, on, I want to be sure I fully understand that process, what dynamics are involved with compression.
The way it's been explained to me, the compression is how you want to implement the employees you already have hired, be it based on position, date, or hire date. That's the compressions we've come up with that I think Mr.
Yeah.
Robertson has recommended.
Yeah.
And
Now, what's the difference as
Well-
far as budgetary impact?
$1 million.
Hiring date
over $1 million.
Yeah, it's about $1 million
One
difference.
of them's 153, others 2,269,000. So what is causing that much actual difference?
One's by
Because-
position and one's by years of service.
Because one's based on position date. Like I said, for example, me, I've been here 42 years, but I've only been in this position 28 years. So, there's a difference there.
So Julia's compression, if you did it based on years in position, would be a lot more than if you did it on years in position.
But I
She'd be
won't have
maxed
it
out.
2 years, and I'm going to be at max. And what are you going to do if somebody works over 30 years, which is the way the scale is done? Are you going to leave them at max, and the only thing they get is COLAs if you give a COLA, or are you going to, I mean, that's a question, but
All right.
that's 6 people, so.
I've actually heard of frozen in position too, where if my memory's right, they didn't get anything as far as.
This does not freeze
Right.
anyone.
No.
But that was many, many years ago in different organizations.
Yeah. And this that we've,
Yeah, it doesn't.
what I've been asked to calculate doesn't freeze anybody. Only time you would be frozen if you took a demotion.
Yeah.
Dick, were you frozen in your position at one time?
Yes.
I thought you were.
In the tax office, I was frozen
Right.
for like 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
Well, I think if we're going to talk to Mr. Mercer, we need to get him on the line.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. Does anybody have anything specific for him?
Y'all got any questions for me?
I'd like some tidying up, please, on phasing in this, or changes. How exactly, what process does he recommend? It's probably in here, and I admit I'm not gone as deeply or as thoroughly into this as I could have, or maybe even should have. But if he could give a little more clarity on exactly what he sees as a good, fair process implementing.
Did Mr. Robertson give you a call by chance? He was trying to call around to each commissioner since he can't be here in person and answer really
He had a
specific.
few notes, and I don't remember clearing this up at that time as much as I probably should have. He
How do you get a call from?
He sent an email out asking for time, yeah.
Did you get the email?
I got a call.
I didn't get an email, but I got a call.
I got a call.
I got an email.
I got a couple other questions on it.
Okay.
But I don't think we need to call him and try to fight that phone with him.
It's so difficult for him to hear. What I can do is
I'd rather you just ask him.
ask him the questions and let him specifically answer
Another
them.
question I have on it is, on page 13,
And it's the same on both.
Okay.
under the area of reclassification,
Uh-huh.
Says when a new position is created or there is a need for a reclassification of existing position, position questionnaire as used in the study should be completed. Position questionnaire should then be evaluated
using the factor evaluation system to
determine the pay grade, thus continuing to maintain the internal equity of the position. My question is,
I guess I'd like
I don't
to
understand
about how we are going to use the
factor evaluation system.
maybe get him to explain further how he used it.
To do
Like if
this.
he's gonna be providing us with a way to use that.
Yeah, exactly. And then also, who's gonna make the decision on reclassifications? I assume the board will have the
Yeah.
final say-so, right?
Oh, yes, yeah,
Okay.
yes. We need,
It's all done at budget time, most time anyway. Yeah, that's the way it is now, but
But this is kind of vague, like you can't really tell who's making I guess,
the board will need to see, have an explanation of how that factor evaluation system was used to determine a grade and everything.
yeah, if you're,
so
yeah,
we can approve it, so.
That may need to be put in the personnel policy or something.
okay.
It's so that classifications are not confusing. And if we're gonna use, I guess we use their system, it works and we're happy with it.
Right, okay. I'm gonna ask him about the factor system, if he's gonna be providing us the information on how to use that system, and making sure the board would have the final say-so on that.
You know,
I think by the time I finish analyzing this, I want to get him to demonstrate to me
on several positions how he did it.
Right.
Yeah, in person.
I know,
Yeah,
I know.
let's drop the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I don't
hard,
have any phone calls.
I tell you, that was a disaster.
yes.
The only
Sorry,
other thing
It was a learning experience.
the only other thing I would add is that when I think of phases, what we've, I guess, looked at today's three phases, the 468 phase, the 1,000,001 phase, and the 2,000,002 phase.
What page is that on?
There's those numbers.
Numbers that you
Numbers.
gave,
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
You know, but I think of phases in terms of how much we can afford.
yeah.
No, we're gonna put a certain number of dollars toward this.
Now,
It may not fall right on those three numbers, it may be something in between. And
Right,
And we need to think through what phases, or what's the definition of these phases
Phases are really gonna be when we get to it.
and I give you the cost of each minimum, then the positions, and then the years of service. Now, if you combine the minimum and position, I have a total, and if you combine the minimum and the years of service, I have a total. I just give you each individual total at this time.
We can get into all that later.
Yeah.
About doing the budget,
But
but
we need to,
I was
That's
just
it's all
trying
gonna
to,
come down to, there's gonna be a certain amount we can afford to
put in this the first year.
and that's kind of what he's saying when we talk about phased-in approaches. He can recommend things like bringing everybody to minimum and then phasing in a certain percentage of what you can afford at that time. He's, like he said to us a few times, he can't tell us what we should spend or how much we can afford to spend, only you all can decide that. So if he just says that you're gonna do it based on years of service, how he'd recommend doing it, or based on bringing everybody to minimum. But I can ask him specific questions. What were the specific questions about the phased-in approaches that you wanted him to answer? And I can send him.
Just a little more comprehensive explanation on how he envisions the best way to phase this study, what we've been looking at here, phase it into our system.
The first thing he's gonna tell you is that that's based on what y'all wanna do here, because y'all, say Stokes County knows what their budgetary numbers are.
Well, and
So-
it varies from 1.5
Yeah.
cents on our tax rate to several cents on our tax rate.
That's exactly right.
So if we went from time of hire, that 2,200,000 and some thousand figure, that's several cents on a tax rate.
We won't be doing that.
But if you did, you're pretty brave.
I mean, he could probably give you a breakdown of here's how some of the counties took a salary study and
Right.
implemented it. They've done it over a 2-year period of time. They've
Right.
done it over a 3-year period of time.
That's what I'm
Depending on
interested
what
in hearing.
plan of action they took. Did they
Yeah.
take implementation plus compression? And compression being years of service in the position. Or most of them left out and they didn't even look at the actual years of service the employee had here, because this salary study is implementing what it should have been all along of what they would be making, no matter how many years of service you got here. It's already took it in consideration. It's already took in consideration of education and qualifications for the position. So if you start out new there, the only thing that you probably would need to consider now would be implementation and years of service in the position.
What is the main thing that we're trying to accomplish with our salary study? The main things, reduce turnover, which we've already done in some instances, and increase employee morale. And I'm not getting indications that we have a morale issue at this time. So I'm trying to figure out, this is the next board's process that they're going to have to deal with. How do all these pieces fit together? What is the fair and reasonable thing to do with what we're dealing with here? And if Mr. Robertson or anyone, particularly Mr. Robertson, I guess, could give some insight or some of his suggestions as far as how we get all these pieces to fit together, it might be helpful to the new board.
He should be able to give them that.
Well, there's one thing about it. He combined 11 different towns and cities and counties in it. In the beginning, we said we weren't going to put in big counties like Guilford and Forsyth. In the end, they were put in. They were put in. Also, we had towns like Wanacove is in it. King is in it. Yadkin County is in it. More counties and towns our size. Of course, you know, there's 11. And, to read them off, everybody's got a copy of it. All 11 towns, counties, and cities. And the whole thing is going back to what Commissioner Morrison and what Mr. Nicholson's talked about, you know, going through this coronavirus 19 right now. Some people may be saying because of security, and there were a list of things given of why they may not be moving as much right now. I do know this. We're looking at going, let's just say we're looking at going to the first thing, this first thing, changing everything to a minimum, $468,000. So 468 will get every person that we employ up to the minimum on his scale, correct? 468,000 will get everybody that works for us to the minimum that he's got on here.
Or to the ones that's not there,
Yeah. Correct? I think the big thing then is that what we'll look at as we go through the budget process is that we're going to say, okay, can we go to the minimum and give all $468,000 in next year's budget? Or are we going to have to spread it out over 2 years or whatever? And if we do, how are we going to do that? Because if we can't give $468,000 and get everybody to the minimum, you know, and we divide and give some of them the minimum, and some of them don't get the minimum, and Then we got the complexity of how are we gonna get it equitable and fair for the first, second group that didn't get the memo. And, I mean, we don't know what our budget's gonna be next year right now, but we don't know if we can give $468,000 to get everybody to the minimum, but I sure think that everybody is, if we're gonna go that route, everybody's gotta get to the minimum. Everybody's gotta get to the minimum at $468,000.
No, that's the way I see it, if we can't do that. It's kind of hard to pick and choose who gets it first round, who goes,
That's
you're
what
gonna
I'm
start a
saying.
war right here in this building.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm blaming on
I'm
Jim.
not gonna pick and choose.
Yeah, that's a good idea, I'll be here.
That'd be my position to go in trying to do that 468, and then everything above that's based on affordability. And then, once you kick that piece in and get that rolling, you start measuring turnover.
Bad thing is even what we see today, sorry, Commissioner Morris, I mean, to interrupt you, but the bad thing even what we're seeing today, we still don't know if it's even gonna be possible, because the governor that we got in, talking about another shutdown possible, I mean.
Yeah, that's just my going in position.
Yeah.
If we could do that, that would, I consider that a success. Anything beyond that would be great.
And our president-elect is talking about, mask until 2022. It's beginning to look like he might be.
Yeah, with you.
Well, according to the Mercer Group Incorporated, they laid it out in factors all the way through to factor 10, work environment. And all of these different ones, like factor 3, supervision, experience, factor 4, guidelines, factor 5, complexity, factor 6, scope and effect, and factor 7, personnel contact, factor 8, purpose of contacts, 9 is physical demand, and 10 is work environment. That's what he was saying, that, you know, if you're gonna come up with a minimum, midpoint, and
Maximum.
I don't know, he's using these steps and factors, trying to get to get the start point and in the middle. So, if that's what we're gonna have implemented, then we need to get some information on every employee.
Any more questions, comments on this one?
One more quick thing. The original amount that was replaced by the 468, 472 was 300-some thousand.
Because he did not count the fringes. The total he give you did not include the fringe.
Okay.
And it did go up a little bit, the changes that they discussed with him. It did go up a little bit, but it didn't go up that much. I think maybe $20-some thousand, I think was all. Somewhere, what they're about.
I think we got on this right here.
Put it on December 28th meeting,
Yes.
and then go from there. We'll try
Yes.
to get any other, and I went ahead and sent him that email with the questions that we asked to let him know we weren't gonna call him, and send him those. So as soon as I get those answers, I'll send those out.
Thank you, Sharon.
Move on to item D, the department budget review.
Mr. Chairman and board members, this is something that's in your packet showing that you guys wanted to discuss and kind of go over and make sure that you were looking after your departments in a manner. And we sent out an email to all of our department heads and asked them to reply back to Shannon and myself concerning their budget and the budget areas that were cut during the budget process. And I had, as you can see in your packet, I had 8 that replied. I assume the other departments are in good shape, and they are willing to move forward with what they have in their budget. But in here, we could start with number one, which I've got in here is the sheriff office. They were requesting that we hire they were requesting a records clerk and a new deputy. And you can see the grade levels there that they were starting them out at, and the cost of salary. And I'm assuming that has got nothing to do with Julia's fringes of benefits. So this is just straight out payment of payroll. So I don't know if you want to consider that. My recommendation on a lot of this right here is, especially with any of the employees, is I would hold off on that, because we still don't know what this year is going to finish up with, and I would just be careful with your employees that were requested. I think it's something that could probably be all right if you actually want to talk to the sheriff or talk to EMS, and you want to talk to DSS department on those that are requesting these personnel, and get a little more understanding of the absolutely urgency that is needed to hire someone like that, or these extra stands. But we can go over any questions you may have on any of these individuals that have requested their budget be placed back like it was when they submitted it back in was it March, maybe, when the budget was actually done. Joey and I and Shannon and staff would review these, and we done, the budget was passed when we're working in currently, but it's totally up to you guys what y'all want to do.
Is there any department kind of struggling right now with these requests?
I don't know if there's any department was struggling other than one that I would recommend you would fix, and that would be your natural resource, soil and water department. And they are just requesting that you put $1,000 back in their departmental line item, because they need that for purchasing of supplies. Yeah. Janice Pack, she runs and oversees the soil and water, and she says that the board budget review on today's date, this meeting will allow them to see how far. She is saying it is that she would love to have her departmental line item put back like it was. She was cut $1,000 in departments, and she would love to do that, have to make sure that her supplies was purchased for that area in her department. So, I mean, if you look at the other ones, you can look at fire marshal. I've already done talked to Scott about that. I don't know if some of these air packs or these turnout gear or these life pack stuff. I don't know if there's something that the COVID money could look at on some of that. Emergency management. This was $7,000 that they wanted to put and look into in this new storage building that we just purchased from Mike Phil. Emergency medical services now. That's 6 full-time paramedics, 1 full-time administrative assistant. This is putting on the 6th ambulance that you guys know about. So and stocking this new EMS station in Walnut Cove. So that's something that you need to think about in the next couple of months on how you want to move forward with it. So I would give Brandon a call and talk to him sometime when you got a chance, and get a real good understanding of what where he wants to move forward with that. Because he's planning or projecting that this new EMS station will probably be done around April, May. Would love to have these paramedics in place to where once that's opened, he can put that new 6th ambulance that we've already done purchased, that's running when it's actually needed, into this station, and they can be up and running and taking care of the So this is something we need to think about over the next 3 or 4 months. So you've got a little time to study this one and analyze it a little bit better. And you got economic development, there's $11,000 there that's in their advertisement budget. They're saying that here's where they get their marketing and advertisements, something that they would love to see back in their budget.
Did they just get a grant on something?
They did.
Yeah, they got a grant and they got additional grant monies that I'm fixing to.
They have another one that they're getting ready to do too and I have a letter from them. I think Jake may have that copy of just explaining the advertising and marketing they're talking about that they use that funding for.
And then you would get on down to register of deeds. Register of deeds just concerned about their part-time employee. You know that one was originally cut in the budget, and it was replaced back in until this point in time that you could review it and see if COVID sales tax money had impacted Stokes County in any manner. And we know that we can see that that's not happening as far as up to September anyway. Social Services is still requesting 2 social worker 2 position, 3 processing assistant 3s, and in several reclassifications.
And actually, that one, the reclassification of the processing assistants, that's being moved around in the salary study to do away with those 3 because we're not going to even have those now. There'll be 4s. So that'll take care of that one. And there's a letter from Stacy also with some justifications for her positions.
Yeah, I'll pass them out to you right now. That way you can take this letter and kind of read over it from Stacy.
Do you have the costs, what these would cost? I know some is the state funding, correct?
Yes, Stacy's is, a lot of federal money.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing about using that money, it's gonna be reoccurring.
Yeah.
You have to think about that. What you implement now is gonna come around again.
Well, can I mention something, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
One thing about doing filling positions now, it's kind of like cherry picking to me, and I'm not referencing any particular department, but if we fund somebody's position like was not funded during
Keep
the
the
last
ones she's
budget
got
cycle,
filled.
we're not giving the other departments the same chance because their positions weren't funded. So if we pick one out here and one out there and fund those, how do we justify not funding all these other departments who think their position was important?
Oh, I agree. I was just curious how much extra we was looking at, what the position she was looking to get done here.
Right. I serve on the Social Services Board, and I respect what they do and how they do it, and we're blessed to have a good quality department like we have. But we've been pretty generous, pretty lenient with social services over time. We've added a fair number of positions. I've lost.
Last year.
We had 4 or 5 at one time last year.
Got 5 out of the budget cycle.
Yeah. I almost had second thoughts about how that was done.
I think over 2 years, you got 17 in the health, in the social services. That's long.
I think it's just something that
17 what?
Employees.
New position?
Maybe new and promotions on that.
No, this was like 2 years, and 2-year budget, so.
I didn't realize there's that many.
I don't think there's that.
I know I'm opposed to this reading, I know about it.
And one of these in her letter is just about the substance abuse liaison that used to come from the MOE funding, and now it's actually in the budget. She just wanted to be sure that position was secure, because that's a pretty important position down there, and there's actually the other one that was added, and she wanted to be sure that would still be coming out of the budget as a permanent position for them.
you have it.
If anybody had any intent on changing that,
It's in there right now.
yes, it is. I don't think anybody has any plans to change that.
May I speak to that just a second,
Uh-huh.
Mr. Chairman? I don't recognize that as a true, pure social services position. That position is available for more than just that department. I think the sheriff uses it, health department uses it, others use, what's her name, our liaison, Wanda Pierman's services. So that's not just exclusively a social services position, and I wouldn't expect the assistant we've added to be strictly social services either.
It was put in social services because we could get federal and state funding.
Exactly, but it serves more than just that department. Yep. And I think it's very clear that the need is there with what this COVID situation is adding, as far as emotional and mental and drug use are all just out the top.
But you see inside your cover letter that I gave you, the cost of that is like for the sheriff's department, you can see. Paramedics, like I said, that's something we can think about studying on for a while, because we got just a little bit of time to really hash this down and get it to where you want that, like you want it. And then you've got your emergency management, that's just fixing up the buildings a little bit better.
When are this new ambulance station gonna be ready?
He's projecting like maybe April,
April.
March, April.
I guess we need to know what the lead time is, if we're gonna have it operational when it opens, because that's before the budget's on.
We got the ambulance, we just don't have the people.
6 people.
We have the ambulance.
Yeah.
We need the time, how long does it take, or are we gonna just wait and let it sit until the budget?
See, plan on having anybody there at that station before the budget cycle?
Yeah.
He would love to have it staffed before the budget.
I mean, was he gonna have some already about these positions there? Was he gonna move people around?
He would have to move them around. He'd have to bring in part-time help mainly. But there's a couple of options that you're looking at, and we could definitely talk to Brandon on that, is him utilizing more part-time help.
Is the full-time admin assistant to the EM, does that have anything to do with that new station?
No, it does not.
Are they separate?
He's asking for that, like actually in their EMS office there in Danbury, somebody to be in the office when he's not there.
Okay, well, what's there now? Don't they have somebody there now?
He and Justin King pretty much split that time up. Justin's the training operations officer, and so they're pretty much, one of them tries to be in the office as much as they can.
Is the building that they're talking about, what building is that we got?
You want to top the hill?
What?
Mountain Road.
Outright?
Oh, it's about the big building?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not leaking or anything?
No, it's not. This was like maybe some, yes.
Sheriff's, the people he wants, are they based on the new jail or something, or why he wants?
I think we filled those positions, didn't we? We
He
had.
did. Yeah, these are not, you put back.
Jones. He did Jones.
But these two are filled, not the two on here, right?
No, but you put the ones in that were due at the jail.
So this is something just for the sheriff's office?
Right.
Records clerk is the front office.
Well, on Brandon's position, didn't we say he could have it till now, and then we decided he could continue?
Yes.
So we need to decide that, right?
That would be nice to just know.
You would need to decide on whether or not you want to allow that part-time position to remain for the rest of this budget year, and then let him move forward with his new budget.
But when are we gonna do that? If we don't do it, they'll have to leave, right?
I mean, if it got to where we were facing 20%
Right.
loss in our sales tax, I would say that you guys were forced to be taking some more stricter actions that we've already done. But right now, I would say that you would allow things to move along like they are,
Allow us to keep the position.
and allow them to keep the position
That's what I was
until
thinking, too.
What's the cost of that for the rest of the year, or next budget?
I don't think he's got any, like it was $15,000 for hers.
Yeah. for the-
Also, I was fixing to say, his
Oh, yeah,
revenues
right.
as of October was 74,193, what was collected, which is 43.64% of his budget in October.
That's an easy-
Revenue stamps is 55.59% collected, so, you know, that's his revenues that he's earning downstairs in his office,
Definitely been busy, all the stuff he's been bringing to us.
you know.
Couldn't you just, in a budget amendment, transfer, if they're okay with that, transfer the money back for Soil and Water's departmental supplies?
We can do a
Line item.
budget, we can do a budget.
If the board's okay with that, you just transfer that back.
You can do it out of contingency. I mean, that's-
Well, I think that was the only specific recommendation that our manager made that we want to really give strong consideration to. Is that correct? I'm on the 1,000 for soil and water.
Transfer it
Yeah,
back.
that's fine with me. I mean, that's,
She wouldn't ask for it, she didn't.
No.
um,
I think that we're agreeing on, make sure I got this correct, it's number 6 and number 7.
Mhm.
Full of water, departmental supplies, and then the part-time position, registered deeds.
are we agreeing to that one?
Yeah, to keep
I
it.
think with the way he's up right now, he's been pretty busy. If we've already funded all the way to now.
And we said that we would review it, so there's more reasons, it sounds like, to consider keeping it there than to eliminate it.
Correct.
Well,
Which one you talking about?
Number 7 on your list.
Budgeted, it's just, it was, whether it would stay in there.
Brandon, down
Registered
there,
deeds.
his part-time position.
And we funded it till now to consider it at this time, whether we want to continue it or not. But there is somebody in that position.
They work 80 hours.
How many workers is in,
Three. Well,
Before-
two full-time ones and a part-timer in Brandon.
So
Full-time ones, a part-timer in Brandon.
that's more than we had before.
Just about a part-time, isn't it?
Part-time one was put back in 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I must say, his
Office has been pretty busy.
he's been pretty slammed.
Made a pretty good justification for that part-time position during the regular budget. Why he needed it.
The only thing I think our chairman sort of made an observation about this, or shared a comment about it earlier, is I think we really have to be careful with things like we're considering right now, because everybody who submitted the request, sheriff, EMS, emergency department, all these people think their request is very important. And if we feel one, we've got to have really good justification, I would think, for not filling the others. How much would it cost, just for curiosity, don't keep me on the question, just for curiosity, how much would it cost to fund all these?
I don't know, this is the first, I didn't see this list.
I'm supposed to be a conservative.
Did you actually say fund all of these?
Yeah.
Yeah, just for perspective.
How much, I don't know how much EMS would cost.
But I'm gonna go back really and take the easy way out here. You're wondering how I'm gonna get out of this. I'm gonna go with our county manager's recommendation, two of them, 6 and 7.
Jake, is that your recommendation?
I would allow the, soil and
I
water.
want to hear it from you. Your recommendation is what?
My recommendation is to leave everything like it is right now.
You're saying even number 6, the 1,000 on the supply,
I would give her her $1,000
and
back.
then leave everything else like
No, he
that?
would also include.
No, he's not, he's saying, you're not saying 7, are you?
7,
He
7,
told
and you're
me-
leaving it like it is,
Yes.
like she's already there.
It's already been included.
Okay, to continue that person.
Leave everything like you've got it right now.
You're saying the sheriff's, EMS, emergency, fire marshal, economic development, and social services to not consider.
Till budget time.
And
I'm talking about,
that's what
I'm saying, on the budget.
we'll start the budget, and like you've heard Joey say, in February and March. And this is the time
Not
that
to
Brandon,
consider them at this time.
right, this when Brandon say that this new EMS station is gonna be
That's the
ready
one
for
thing,
operation.
that's my one question. If the EMS station is up and ready to operate in April or May, and our budget is never ready by April or May, we know that. We're just really getting started. What are we looking at doing then for that EMS station in Walnut Cove if we know we're not gonna have the budget ready by April? Come on now, let's be realistic. Let's don't play games here. It's not gonna be ready by April, May. Our budget will not be ready.
But you will need to consider staffing this new EMS
That's
station
right,
at
I'm
that
saying,
time. And at that time, we will be bringing you more accurate numbers of what needs to be filled,
okay,
not moving forward with it now.
all right. That's all I want to know. Thank you, sir.
You
One
will,
question, if anybody knows, did, the fire marshal, did he have a part-time assistant request in his budget last year?
We did it last year.
No. So the deal was with that position, a couple of years ago, they got a full-time, another in addition, at one time, there were 2 in that office and the part-time. And a couple of years ago, they requested a full-time position that was also gonna take some of the Walnut Cove district. So they had a whole nother position added. And they had agreed that they would do away with their part-time and just have 3 full-time people in that office. So that happened, the full-time person came on, and it was almost a full year, and the part-time still remained. So this year, Jake spoke with them during the budget about taking that part-time out that should have already come out. That's why it was removed, was because that full-time position was added.
I put it on vibrate, certainly. Sorry about that, folks.
Say, a part-time assistant to the fire marshal, that's in addition, is that in addition to what he's got now?
He requested that in the budget, you said, or he didn't?
Yeah, because it was still in the budget. He was still working over there, the part-time was. And so when Jake did the recommended budget, he took that out because they agreed upon that full-time would
Jake didn't
replace it.
recommend
Right, he did not recommend it.
No.
No.
What they have in there, one admin person now, I think the job Donna was doing.
Yeah, and she's retiring, and somebody else is actually already over there working, and then so there's 3 full-time actual, there's three gentlemen that work over there now as actual, the fire marshal and the assistant fire marshals, there's 2 of them now.
Yeah.
So you have a full-time in place of a part-time.
If you remember,
But just one admin person.
yeah,
Correct, yeah.
you'll remember when we agreed to take on doing Walnut Cove, town of Walnut Cove inspections, we hired a full-time,
Yeah, that's right, I remember.
and they said they wouldn't need the part-timer, we hired the full-time. And we
This
kept,
part-time is an admin position?
no, it was the fire marshal.
Was Randy,
Oh,
yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to, make an adjustment to our agenda then, because under action, we had, I think, if we're going to, number 6 and 7, we're gonna have to move that to action, Mr. Chairman.
I don't think we got to vote on, 7, because it's already.
We will 6th,
We got 6, yeah.
yeah.
And anything else that we just
Yeah.
decide between.
Oh, and on number 6 with that $1,000, we can, if you're okay with doing that, we can put that in a budget amendment to transfer that back to her and have it at the next meeting on the consent
On the
agenda.
23rd.
That's fine.
Just to transfer,
That'd
since
be
it's
good.
just that amount of
Sure.
money back to her departmental
The
supplies.
Professor D's position was budgeted for the whole year, it was just y'all was gonna review it at budget time. So there's nothing, no adjustment needs to be made for that,
Just a budget amendment consent.
That'd be good.
$1,000.
And if there's anything else that you're seeing on here that you want to come back to a regular meeting with more information as far as cost, like a specific department that maybe you want to talk to somebody and see what they're asking for, and if it needs to happen now, and you can just let us know, we can bring that back to a regular meeting.
As long as we can do a budget amendment, I'm good with that. Thank you.
I personally don't understand the part-time assistant to the fire marshal.
It's not, it was cut out of the budget. He's asking for it back.
No, he's asking for us to add.
He's asking for it to be added back.
We're not,
We don't need it.
No, we're not going, I mean, the board, I
nobody.
think they said no. That's my understanding.
Leave at 5, Jimmy.
That's up to you if
We
you want.
decided to leave at 5 today before you got here.
We're gonna move on to item C, the employee Christmas bonus.
I have put at your location of how we would possibly do the Christmas bonus if you wanted to do one, a 400 and a 500, and how much the estimated cost would be.
Go ahead. Yeah, I think Jimmy is the one that asked you to figure that, so I don't know if you wanna, you'll have to repeat it all if you don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying you wanna, I just don't want you to have to do it all over again.
Maybe I should have suggested 7 o'clock instead of 5. What do you think about that, Mr. Chairman?
Take your recommendation first, was all right. I think Commissioner Moore seconded, so.
Mr.
Good.
Chairman, we can finish this off at our regular, instead of having another separate meeting. Recess meeting.
It doesn't look like we're gonna finish at a reasonable time today, so.
No, it's not.
We'll probably get through one more item or something like that, if y'all wanna do everything else, so regular meeting, that's fine with me.
Fine with me too.
Mr. Langford,
What?
you good with that?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Joey.
We'll leave.
Huh?
What do you think, Jake?
Yeah.
I think y'all are good ones.
All right, go ahead, Joey.
Okay, I was to figure a bonus, Christmas bonus possibly. I figured a 400 and a 500 and the estimated cost that it would be. And I went by the way we did it when we did the last Christmas bonus that we did for the employees, which I forgot what the year was, but this is what a 400 would cost an estimate of $164,239, a 500, $205,293. And I put sheets there to explain how it would be done.
Spend our money while you spend it
I agree with you.
It was just something the board had said that they wanted to look at this time, when they did the budget, board members.
It's not a recurring thing. We didn't discuss this at all in the budget, did we, or did we?
No, we
It
didn't.
was, no,
No colas or bids, did we?
no, but some board members had asked me to have this for when we had this budget meeting. So if you wanted to do something, you know,
And would this have to be under a budget amendment also, or
yeah, it would have to be a budget amendment, yeah,
that you could put on the next?
yeah.
Okay.
See, if I may. Commissioner Morris, when we did our budget, my memory's correct, sometimes it is, sometimes it could be better, but things were so up in the air as far as the COVID situation. I don't think we knew then what we could do and what we couldn't do.
That's what I was thinking.
But since things are coming in pretty, well, considering all aspects of our budgetary side of running the county, I would strongly consider doing something for our employees. I think it's good even if we can't give a raise to show that we do appreciate them. And we've been talking about morale and turnover and things. I think this would be positive, help diminish turnover and improve morale. So I'll go with Commissioner Langford's recommendation, and Commissioner Morris, I think he affirmed it as well, with the 500. 500 and then the decline scale for the other employees. 500 and then the rest, the other part of the scale for that employee. What I'm saying, Julia, is and I think this is what Commissioner Langford was referencing. 500 for permanent full-time employees.
And then it's for permanent employees and also your part-time employees that have a set schedule, like your site workers at the solid waste sites. That's what we did last time when we did a bonus. If someone had a part-timer that had a set schedule, like the site workers.
One thing I'm curious about, what is this 1250 amount? Third item on the
Kind of confused on that one too.
205.
I'm sorry, it's supposed to be 125.
Okay, that makes more sense. I'm about to say, daggone.
I'm sorry, typo, sorry.
That got my attention.
So it's a 250 at the
Sorry.
right then?
And the temporary employees who work a fixed schedule.
Solid waste site, you know, it's those workers that, and any other department that has someone that has a set schedule. The sheriff's got several that has set schedules and everything. That's the way we did it last time. I went and pulled all that stuff from the last one we did and did this the way it was done.
I say, these cats come in third quarter, boy, we're gonna hit it off right there.
But under this scenario, refresh my memory, is who would not get a bonus? Do we have any
Part-timers
employees?
that don't, only ones that wouldn't would be part-timers that don't have set schedules.
We'll define what a set schedule is, like,
Oh.
say the park employees down there, they have a set schedule, right? Seasonal guy,
Yeah, I think he was,
I think I got,
he's not hired right now.
I think he got one last year.
Yeah, I think he got one last time.
Okay.
Yeah, because he had a set schedule.
Yeah, so he's got a set schedule.
If you got a set schedule that you gotta work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, from here to here, then you got one.
Was there anybody then that
Just-
wouldn't get it?
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Just regular part-timers that are called in whenever needed.
Okay.
How many of those do we have?
Huh?
How many of those are there?
That's that one.
You have those people that didn't work at all though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I see.
Full-time employees, about 3.
No, how many of these part-time employees?
Oh.
On call? Just estimate, ballpark.
$65.
65, so if we gave them a nominal amount, $50, that'd be $3,000.
Yeah, see, they're not gonna get but the,
I think he means the part-time that would not get anything that are.
oh,
strictly
not get
on-call.
anything?
Right.
Oh, I,
This wouldn't be that, it wouldn't
I'm
be.
not
that.
sure how many part-time employees we have. We have a lot. The EMS and sheriff, yeah, probably,
Wouldn't even consider it.
probably,
It may have worked, it may have not.
yeah.
That was a little confusing.
I'm sorry, I didn't
That's all right, not a problem. Thank
I
you.
didn't figure that. I was thinking how many would.
I'm
That's
not-
how many would.
I'm not talking well, and I wish we're there.
Because EMS and sheriff have a lot, and jail have a lot of part-time employees.
I was thinking something like $50 for the ones that worked at all during this year. Would not break the bank. It'd be a little more consistency.
We're not doing the Christmas meal this year, Christmas breakfast. That's still happening.
Don't know.
I don't think that, we've talked about it a little
Well, I
bit.
say no.
I think with some of the restrictions, we've had a lot of outbreaks within our county in this last little while.
Probably a no one
Probably
this
not
year.
a great idea to put that many people in one place together. And I mean, and honestly, you know, it's not nearly this amount, but what little spent on that
Yeah.
sort of can go towards that too. I mean, just, you know, just don't want to endanger anybody in a small space like that.
And technically, it's supposed to be no more than 10.
Right.
Are we in violation? 4, 6, 8, or 10?
We're spread out pretty far.
Consensus of the board, everybody wishes to go through with the 500, or would it be the 205, 293?
I'm on board.
I'm on board with the 205, 205.
And I really wish we could squeeze the others in that have worked during this year, if it's not complicating things too much. $50, something like that, non-limit.
How hard would it be?
Or you want people that's worked a certain amount of time, or somebody, see, there's some on the books that haven't worked.
Right? But they were available if needed.
Yeah, I guess so. Because sheriff has a lot on the roster that don't work.
I don't understand
I think
why
that's-
we're trying to muddy the water.
Maybe it is, I don't know. I just like for things to be fair and consistent. And if y'all are satisfied with just The way the list is here, I could go with it.
You want me to look at a time span that they've worked?
Just go, you got here, Susan, just go.
Got it.
Just ever who's on the part-time list gets
No,
50?
no, just go with what you recommend.
Oh, okay, okay. The 500 or the 4?
Five. Something that has to correct that 1250, just to kind of.
Take that zero
Make
off.
sure that 1250.
Yeah, I will take the 0 off, sorry. I
I
looked at this and looked at this.
Yeah, they love it.
Catch that.
1250, Mike.
That's the case we're gonna apply for a job tomorrow.
I'm sorry.
That sort of got my attention.
Will you just do a
I
budget?
probably had an interruption when I was typing and I just didn't pay
Yeah, budget
attention. I
amendment
had a,
Will you just do a budget amendment for that,
Yes.
the next meeting?
Yes.
Andy, I don't know, Mr. Chairman. I'm
I've
sorry.
already done it already.
It's 3 minutes to 5. I think there's no way we could get into another one and get it finished by 5.
Next one's pretty interesting anyway. Might be some discussion.
Y'all wish to recess it or just go ahead and push this off to our next meeting?
Well, I was just gonna say, what maybe you're saying, the next agenda is not really large. I was trying to kind of keep it kind of minimal since we're sort of switching board members and things. So there's not a lot of things. And I think we had talked about the last meeting on the hazard pay, talking about today, maybe then putting it back on action to vote on it. And these other things could also go on and be acted on at next meeting if you wanted to do them, if not. There's not a lot on there as of yet.
And with this hazard stuff, hazard pay, it would be redone since you've just done a Christmas month. It'd be revised. You'd see a different.
Everybody can put that in, just push it into the next meeting?
Okay.
I'm good with it. Make a motion, we adjourn.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Adjourn.
Who's gonna vote no?
I know you wasn't voting, but you gotta take that here down.